Good evening, everyone. My name is Jen Penarski, and I'm a communications officer with the City of Kingston. You are in our public engagement session for playground equipment improvements at Cloverdale Park. It is now 6 p.m., so we're going to start our webinar and our live stream. We have 6 people who registered to participate on Zoom this evening, and we have 1 attendee who has joined us so far. So again, welcome. Thank you for spending your time with us at the Cloverdale Park Playground Improvement Session. This session is live streamed and recorded, and video and microphones are turned off for participants. We do have the chat feature available for technical support questions. Going to run over some technical troubleshooting tips because sometimes technical problems happen. So some things that you can do to improve your experience is you can adjust the different view options in Zoom. You can go to Get Involved Kingston for some resources. There's a number of Zoom troubleshooting tips there. If you get disconnected from Zoom, you can call into the meeting. I'm going to repeat this information so that you can have it handy for you. You can call 1-647-558-0588 and use the webinar ID 912-2011-8165. And if you're unable to connect either by Zoom or by phoning in, you can follow this session on the City of Kingston's YouTube channel. There will be a Q&A section in this online engagement session. Here's how to ask a question. You can ask a question in writing by typing in the Q&A area in Zoom. Just remember that your name and your question will be visible and read out to participants. You can also ask a question verbally during the Q&A period. To do this online, please click Raise Hand, or if you're calling in, press *9 to use the Raise Hand function, and then we will turn on your microphone. If this is your first time joining us for an online engagement session, welcome. We have some guidelines for participation that we would like you to review and let us know if you have any concerns. If you have any concerns with the guidelines for participation that are on your screen right now, please use the raise hand function. I'm going to give everyone a moment to read through these. Not seeing any objections to the guidelines for participation, I'd like to welcome the other attendees who've logged into Zoom this evening. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to Patricia Sharp, who is the project manager for this project, and she will welcome the rest of the project team.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight and for trying out this new format for public consultation. This evening, we will be presenting the concept plans for the proposed improvements to the playground that's at Cloverdale Park. Just to reiterate, I'm Patricia Sharp and I am the project manager for the project, and I am with Parks and Shoreline in engineering services at the city. Joining me tonight are Neil Unsworth. He's the manager of Parks and Shoreline Engineering Services. And we also have Danielle Dibbets. She's leading the team from Wentworth Landscapes. They are the landscape architecture firm that the city has hired to execute the playground design. I would also like to mention that the district councillor, Gary Oosterhoff, is in attendance. Danielle will be presenting the proposed plan to you, but first I'd like to provide you with a bit of context. Next slide, please. So this is a map of Cloverdale Park. It's outlined or filled in red on the map. It's west of Sydenham Road and north of the 401, just off of McIver Road. Next slide. Here we have an aerial view of the park. And the area that you see circled in red, that is the playground. And this is the area where the work will be focused. Next slide. And if we look in closer at the play area, we can see that the existing play equipment is actually physically separated by being situated on 4 separate play surfaces. One of the objectives of this renewal is to consolidate all of the equipment onto a single pad of safety surfacing. Also, the existing play equipment is aging, and the playground needs to comply with current accessibility standards. So a path with accessible bench seating will also be required. The construction budget for the playground at Cloverdale is $110,000, and the construction is expected to occur in the summer and fall of this year. I'm going to hand it over to Danielle, who will walk you through the proposed plans for the playground, and then once she's done, we can address any questions you may have. I also want to mention that there'll be a quick poll at the end of the session, so if you could stay with us long enough so that you can participate in the poll. Danielle. Next slide.
Thank you, Patricia, for the introduction, and thank you, participants, for joining us this evening to hear about the Cloverdale Park proposed playground improvements. Tonight, we will present 2 conceptual site layouts and the proposed playground options. Cloverdale Park Concept A, as shown here, features a linear layout with 1 entry point into the park from the southwest corner of the existing granular parking lot, which is off of McIver Road, as Patricia mentioned. The proposed accessible asphalt pathway leads you into the proposed playground area. At the end of the pathway, there is a small concrete paved area that has 1 bench with concrete curbing for accessible seating. The existing playground equipment areas located throughout the remainder of the site will be restored to open lawn space. The proposed playground area is to include a spinner toy or a spring toy and a new play structure, which I will outline the options for the structure after a review of both concepts. And in this specific concept, a new double bay swing set is proposed. Next slide, please. As you can see here, it will include an accessible seat, a bucket or baby seat, and a couple of belt seats, providing swinging options for all ages. Next slide. The Concept B layout here features a more organic shape and feel with the same entry point as the previous concept, which is from the southwest corner of the existing granular parking lot. The proposed asphalt pathway is accessible, and it curves northeast into the middle of the park to lead you into the playground area. At the end of the pathway, there is a small concrete paved area that consists of 1 bench with concrete curbing for accessible seating and a picnic table, which also has spots for accessible seating. Again, the existing playground equipment areas located throughout the remainder of the site will be restored to open lawn space. The proposed deciduous tree plantings will provide a buffer between the playground users and the traffic on McIver Road. The proposed playground area is to include a spinner toy or spring toy, a new play structure, which I will outline the options here shortly. And this playground equipment differs from conceptual plan A, as seen in the next slide. Next slide, yep. Concept A had the double bay swing set, whereas this concept shows a new proposed mini spinner with a deck and the existing double bay arch swings staying in place, but with new swing seats. Both conceptual site layouts include a playground structure. Next slide. I will now outline the 2 play equipment options. Option A is a play equipment structure that includes a multi-level platform play experience with motion play elements consisting of a double swoosh slide and a gyro spinner or twister, sensory play panels on both the ground and upper levels of the play structure, including a marble panel, gear panel, a storefront, and a periscope panel. There's a transfer station for accessibility and various climbing opportunities, including a logo climber and the sunbeam climber. The photos on this slide provide you with the examples of the play components. Option B, next slide, for play equipment is also a multi-level platform play experience, but includes some different elements. The motion play elements consist of a double scoop slide and incline floating pods. There's also sensory play panels on both the ground and upper levels of the play structure, including a garden fairy game panel, a play store panel. There's a double level play counter and a mini race car panel. This one also includes a transfer station for accessibility and various climbing opportunities, including a handhold climber and a deck ladder. I will now hand it back over to Jen with some polls for voting and the question and answer period. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Danielle. So what I'm going to do is, if you've joined us for an online engagement session before, you might be familiar with our poll tools. Just going to, back up. I advanced too many slides. And this will give you an opportunity to talk about to offer your feedback on the different playground configurations and equipment. So I'm going to ask our attendees who are here with us on Zoom to take a look at, I'm going to back up to the playground concepts. If you could take a moment to consider the concepts and let us know if you prefer option A, option B, or if you prefer not to answer. These polls are anonymous and you can only answer once. Great, thank you everyone for doing that poll. So the next poll that I will ask you to participate in is a poll that is on the preferred equipment options.
Jen, can I interrupt?
Of course.
There's a slide further ahead.
Is there? Thank you.
Both play equipment options side by each.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Thank you.
So again, these polls are anonymous. Please consider the playground equipment options in front of you to let us know if you prefer option A, option B, or if you prefer not to answer. Thank you everyone for doing those quick polls. And I believe I turn it back over to you, Patricia, for the formal Q&A period, correct?
Yes, sorry, I realized I was muted. Yes, and I see that there is a question from Councillor Oosterhoff. Is there consideration to locate trees to enable future shade benefit? The trees are I was just looking at the plans, and in concept B, the trees are located between the playground and the roadway. And we certainly could look at adding or redistributing the trees so that it could shade the edges of the playground. We just have to keep them a certain distance away from the edge to allow for them to mature and for root space. And in option A, we could also consider adding trees as well, which I see that there aren't actually any proposed at this point, but that is certainly something that we can consider. Are there any other questions in addition to that one?
No, but we did have a couple of attendees come in after I explained how you can ask a question during today's session. So for those of you who joined a little bit after 6, if you would like to ask the project team a question, you can do that by typing in the Q&A and we'll read out your question. And if you would like to ask a question verbally, you can use the raised hand function and then we will take you off of mute. I will let you know that we had 6 people registered to participate and we have 3 people with us tonight. So it's almost like you have all of the city staff project team on this one to answer any questions you have about this project. It doesn't look like we have any questions from everybody who has joined us tonight. So maybe just by a, oh, no, Councillor Sterhoff, do you mean the poll questions? So I'll just take a second here to address the poll questions. I don't think you could have answered them wrong. And these are the same poll questions that are available on Get Involved Kingston. So at the end of this webinar, you'll get turned over to the Get Involved page for you to complete those surveys. So Councillor Oosterhoff has a follow-up question and he asks, what age is the playground for?
Is that, oh, I can answer that. This is a middle-age playground, so I believe it's 5 to 12 in both circumstances, A and B.
So it doesn't look like we have any other questions from anybody who is in attendance. So I will note that it is 6:17. Oh, pardon me, we have somebody just has popped into the chat. Oh, sorry, Mr. Baker. So Mr. Baker has asked a question in the chat. What I'll do is I'll just get you to drop it into the Q&A section. And the reason that we ask you to put it in the Q&A session is so that we can capture everything in the reporting out. And it just makes it easier for the project team and a little bit more transparent for everybody who's attending. So his question is, I may have missed it, but could you provide a bit of information on the accessibility for the actual equipment itself?
Hello. Hi. Yes, so for the structures, there are ground level play panels, such as if we were to look at, actually, I was wondering, Jen, if you could go back in the slide presentation. Yeah. So there are ground level play panels, such as the ones that you see in the lower left of the panel there. There's also transfer platforms, and that can be seen in the upper left on the right side of the structure, so that you can transfer onto the platform to make your way up to the upper level of the deck. And then use the slide. Some other forms of accessibility, we include a rolled edge curb from the paved part of the, so where the concrete pad is, there'll be a rolled curb so that you can roll onto the 5-bar surface, which is the engineered wood chips, which is what the play surface will be. Is there any, that would be the end of my question, end of my answer for that, if there's an additional question.
We have another question from Angela, and she asks, is there any possibility of getting any adult type equipment into the public parks? For example, outdoor type workout equipment? And Neil will take this one. Go ahead, Neil.
Thanks, Jen. Can you hear me okay? Angela, we are recommending the installation of 3 new outdoor exercise equipment installations across the city as part of the upcoming Parks and Recreation Master Plan approval request that's going to the Arts and Rec Committee at the end of the month. Hopefully it will get endorsed by committee and then council. The 3 locations that are suggested are a bit arbitrary at this point because it's a very high level document, and those would occur over about a 5 or 6 year period. But they're recommended to be in general along multi-use pathways and in a regional destination park. And those multi-use pathways in the West End, the Bridle Path pathway system, and in the East End, the Greenwood Park pathway system were recommended, and Lake Ontario Park was recommended. Although those are still subject to sort of further approval, Cloverdale was not a site recommended for adult equipment, exercise equipment. So I'm sorry, not in this location, but the good news is, yes, we are recommending that we start to bring some of that equipment into the city that will be broadly accessible. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. So we have received questions from everybody in attendance this evening, and we have done our quick polls on the different types of configurations and equipment. So Patricia, I'm going to pass it over to you for a summary.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jen. So what the next steps are that we will be leaving the survey poll, which is very similar to the poll that was done tonight. It will be online on the city's Get Involved page for 3 weeks from now. And then we will consolidate all of the feedback we hear and provide a summary in about a week after that. So in about 4 weeks, a summary of the feedback that we've heard and come up with a final plan. We will also be providing a project update when we get a more accurate idea of the construction schedule. I will give it back to you, Jen.
Thanks, Patricia. So it is 6:22 p.m. We thank you again for joining us this evening for this public engagement session. I've launched a poll here that because this format is new for us, we just want to get your feedback on your experience with the technology and the format. So if I could ask you just to take a minute or two to complete this poll, that would help us out a lot. As Patricia noted, that the survey for this project is available on Get Involved Kingston. And if you would like to re-watch this session, it will be available on YouTube and on the project page for this project. And everyone has completed our evaluation pool. So thank you very much again. On behalf of the City of Kingston, thank you for joining us at this online engagement session, and we hope you have a pleasant evening.